As a golden twilight settled over the luxurious streets of Parkview Heights, Cassandra Cook believed she was headed for a peaceful evening drive, until a police siren shattered the tranquility. In mere seconds, a drawn gun would be pointed at her, and her identity as the FBI director's wife would spark a chain of events that shook the entire neighborhood. It was an early autumn afternoon in Tennessee. The sun cast a gentle glow, tempered by a crisp, cool breeze. The clock had just passed 5 p.m., rush hour, when the residents of Parkview Heights typically returned home. This neighborhood was famed for its pristine lawns, rows of tall maple trees turning shades of gold, and grand houses blending neoclassical architecture with modern luxury. Everything looked calm and orderly, yet beneath that outward serenity lay an undercurrent of tension. Cassandra Cook, a woman of color in her early 40s, drove her sleek black Audi Q7 through the winding streets. She wore a smart beige blazer, black trousers, and meticulously manicured nails. Around her neck hung a delicate necklace inscribed with the initials C and M, symbolizing her name and that of her husband, Marcus Cook, who happened to be the director of the FBI. Despite years of living in Tennessee, Cassandra knew her outward appearance. A black woman alone in a luxury car sometimes attracted unwarranted suspicion, especially in predominantly white, upscale areas like Parkview Heights. Cassandra turned onto another quiet street of Parkview Heights, her mind filled with thoughts of an upcoming evening. She had just wrapped up a meeting at the local community center and was tired. All she could think about was a hot bath and preparing her husband's favorite honey-glazed chicken for dinner. Suddenly, the glow of red and blue lights flickered in her rearview mirror. Her pulse quickened. "Here we go again," she thought, easing the Q7 over to the curb beneath a large maple tree whose leaves were a vibrant mix of red and gold. Officer Martin Ross, still seated in his patrol car, eyed the woman in the black Audi. Chief discussions around Parkview Heights had warned of outsiders who didn't conform to the neighborhood's standards. Ross had grown suspicious the moment he saw Cassandra's silhouette, a single black female in a luxury SUV. He decided she must have committed an offense, failing to signal a turn, he concluded, even though Cassandra had indeed signaled. In his view, she warranted a stop at once. Cassandra placed her hands on the steering wheel, inhaled quietly, and touched her phone. She clicked the recording feature, laying the device on the console. It was a precaution Marcus had insisted upon. Always record if you feel unsafe. Ross approached Cassandra's window. His gaze was scrutinizing, as if searching for any reason to escalate the situation. Ross coldly, "License and registration." Cassandra looked up, her expression calm. "Cassandra, may I ask what I've done wrong, officer?" Ross narrowed his eyes. "Ross, you failed to use your turn signal and drove erratically in a speed-restricted zone." Cassandra was dumbfounded. She'd taken that route countless times and had definitely used her turn signal. But she chose not to argue. "Cassandra, all right. My license and registration are in my purse. I'll grab them now." Ross remained silent, scanning her from her manicured fingernails to her tasteful bracelet. He despised her composure. In his eyes, she was supposed to appear frightened or submissive, deepening the character's inner thoughts. Cassandra's perspective. She recalled an incident 2 years prior when a black friend was pulled over for no valid reason and ended up spending a night in jail simply for dropping her phone in panic. She vowed never to let fear or anger overwhelm her during a police stop. Ross's perspective, 20 years in law enforcement, had eroded Ross's empathy. He believed that many fancy car owners in these neighborhoods were up to no good, especially those who didn't fit the mold. In his mind, authority must be exercised aggressively to keep everyone in line. Environment: sprawling mansions with classic porticos, impeccably trimmed lawns. Through large windows, gleaming chandeliers twinkled in the gathering twilight. Children played on neatly mowed grass. Mr. McCarthy ambled by with Buddy, his old Labrador, pausing in curiosity when he spotted the patrol car. Ross snatched Cassandra's documents, barely glancing at them. Ross, you live around here? Still calm, Cassandra answered. Cassandra, yes, a couple of miles away. Ross smirked, reading her address. Ross, really? And where exactly are you headed this time of day? Cassandra's expression tightened slightly. She answered evenly, Cassandra, I'm going home, officer. A long pause descended. Ross clasped his hands behind his back, leaning forward. Ross, are you sure this is your home? The insinuation was blatant. Cassandra took a slow breath, heart pounding, but face controlled, recalling Marcus's advice. Never let them see they can intimidate you. Cassandra, I don't need to prove that to you. Ross felt slighted, outraged even. He despised her measured defiance, her complete lack of fear. From a short distance, Mr. McCarthy hesitated, fumbling with his phone, unsure if he should record. Buddy wagged his tail anxiously. Ross headed back to his patrol vehicle for a moment, leaving Cassandra alone in simmering tension. She used the brief respite to ensure her phone was capturing everything. Nearby, a young couple peered from their front porch, curiosity etched on their faces. At the patrol car's onboard computer, Ross typed in her information. The system showed no criminal record, no prior citations, clean as could be. But something about her unflappable demeanor nagged at him, fueling his resolve to push further. He returned, exuding authority. Ross, step out of the car. His tone wasn't a request. It was an order meant to strip her of any dignity. Cassandra recognized the shift. Officer Ross wanted a show of submission. Cassandra, I don't need to exit the vehicle unless there's a legitimate reason. I'm unarmed. There's no cause for a search. Ross's temper flared. Ross, you're obstructing law enforcement. Out, now! The tension soared. Nearby passers-by grew uneasy. Jacob Anderson, a delivery driver, stopped his scooter and began filming from across the street. Retaining her composure, Cassandra tried to de-escalate. Cassandra, officer, if you require me to step out, you need probable cause. I haven't violated any law aside from the turn signal claim, which, Ross's eyes narrowed. His hand hovered near his holster. A chilling jolt shot down Cassandra's spine. The crowd muttered anxiously. The situation was spiraling beyond a routine traffic stop. Ross, fueled by stubborn pride and latent bias, refused to concede any ground. Ross, voice trembling with anger, I won't say it again. Get out of the car or I will force you. Cassandra realized this could turn dangerous. She lifted her phone, speaking firmly. Cassandra, I'm recording. Your name is Martin Ross, badge 746. You have no right to use force when I'm not resisting or posing any threat. If you continue, you'll regret it. One might think these words would make Ross pause. Instead, he drew his gun. The snap of the weapon from the holster sent shockwaves through bystanders. A mother shielded her child. Mr. McCarthy gasped, stepping back. Buddy let out a startled bark. Ross, aiming at Cassandra, keep your mouth shut and get out of the car, now! At this instant, Cassandra's heart pounded like thunder. She thought of all those who had lost their lives in similar encounters. Yet somehow, she remained outwardly composed, meeting his gaze. Cassandra, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Ross kept his gun trained on her, sweat beading on his forehead. The neighbors stood aghast, phones raised to record everything. As tension peaked, another patrol SUV screeched to a halt nearby. Captain Delgado, a seasoned officer with silver-streaked hair and a stern demeanor, jumped out, followed by Officer Lucy Brown. Delgado shouting, Ross, lower your weapon! Ross turned, gun still in his grasp. Ross, Captain, she's disobeying. Delgado, I said put it down, now! Ross hesitated. Delgado was his direct superior, authorized to suspend him on the spot. Jaw tight, Ross grudgingly lowered the barrel. Delgado, Holster your weapon. Defeat. Visible in his eyes, Ross slowly holstered the gun. Everyone breathed a collective sigh of relief. Lucy Brown, approaching from behind Delgado, looked outraged and dismayed at the same time. Delgado turned to Cassandra, concern evident. Delgado, ma'am, are you all right? I'm terribly sorry for this. Eyes fixed on Ross, Cassandra spoke without hesitation. Cassandra, physically I'm fine, but he just aimed a gun at an unarmed civilian, me, for no valid reason. Those gathered seemed to lean in, anticipating her next words. Cassandra, and he doesn't realize who I am. Delgado frowned. Ross remained clueless. Cassandra, my name is Cassandra Cook, wife of Marcus Cook, director of the FBI. It was as if lightning had struck. Ross went pale. The neighbors gasped. Lucy Brown's mouth dropped open in shock. Delgado locked eyes with Ross, silently conveying, "You've ruined yourself." Cassandra raised her phone toward Ross. Cassandra, you aimed a gun at a citizen with no cause, and that citizen is the FBI director's wife. Tell me, how exactly do you think this will end? Ross stood frozen, beads of sweat creeping down his temple. Composing himself, Delgado immediately took action. He spoke into his radio with sharp authority. Delgado, control be advised. Officer Martin Ross, badge 746, is hereby suspended for unauthorized use of force. Confirm, please. The dispatcher responded swiftly. Acknowledged, Captain, standing by. Delgado turned to Ross. Delgado, turn in your weapon and badge. Ross knew the procedure. With shaking hands, he unbuckled his holster and handed over both his gun and the badge he had carried proudly for 2 decades. In that moment, his sense of power and honor seemed to crumble into dust. The onlookers around them, neighbors and passers-by, stood in uneasy silence. No one cheered. The possibility of a fatal outcome mere minutes earlier weighed heavily on everyone's mind. The young couple who watched from their porch slowly retreated indoors, shaken. Mr. McCarthy stood hugging Buddy, murmuring something about, "Thank God no shots were fired." Cassandra opened her car door, stepping out carefully. Though her exterior remained controlled, tears threatened to surface from the sheer stress of it all. Captain Delgado nodded apologetically. Delgado, I'm sorry on behalf of our police department. We'll launch an investigation immediately. Would you like to file an official complaint? Cassandra's gaze bore into Ross, who looked as if his world was collapsing. She remembered the faces of countless unnamed victims of police misconduct, many of whom never found justice. Cassandra. Yes, I will file a complaint. He must be held accountable. For everyone who isn't the director's wife, who protects them when something like this happens. Delgado gave her a solemn nod. Lucy Brown also looked at Cassandra in quiet agreement. Ross was ordered to leave the scene. He trudged off, avoiding everyone's stares, and drove away in his personal vehicle. Meanwhile, Delgado and Lucy filled out paperwork. Those recording the altercation slowly dispersed, though the shock of what they witnessed would linger. Cassandra got back into her Audi and, as she drove away, her phone rang. Marcus Cook. He had likely seen footage or received word through official channels. Marcus, voice tense. Are you all right, Cass? Cassandra, exhaling shakily. I'm fine, just shaken. It's not the first time I've faced prejudice, but this time was worse. He pointed a gun at me. There was a pause on the line. Marcus struggled to contain his anger. Marcus, I'll handle what comes next. However far you want to take this, we will. Cassandra, we must. This abuse of power cannot go unchallenged. Not for me, not for anyone else. By the next morning, the incident had made headline news across local outlets. Jacob Anderson's video of Ross drawing his gun was shared widely on social media, igniting an uproar. People were furious. What if she hadn't been the FBI director's wife? Would the story have ended differently? Local news programs played the clip repeatedly, featuring interviews with eyewitnesses. City administration issued an apology, promising a thorough investigation. Activist groups organized gatherings in front of the Parkview Heights Police Department, brandishing signs demanding accountability. "We want justice." Inside the department, Captain Delgado convened urgent internal meetings, placing Ross under administrative detention pending further investigation. Tensions ran high among senior staff. Younger officers like Lucy Brown condemned the incident, while a few older, jaded colleagues muttered, "Ross messed with the wrong person." In a holding area designated for suspended officers, Ross sat with his head in his hands. He replayed the moment of drawing his gun, how it all happened in a blink. Part of him felt remorse. Another part raged that Cassandra was no ordinary civilian. He brooded, if she hadn't been the FBI director's wife, maybe none of this would have blown up. That thought reflected the deep-seated bias that had led him here. At FBI headquarters in Washington, Marcus Cook pored over the incident files, staring at the image of Ross pointing a weapon at Cassandra. A storm of rage and disbelief churned inside him. His desk phone rang. "Captain Delgado. Delgado. Director Cook, I want to personally apologize for what your wife endured. We've started an internal investigation. Ross will be held accountable." Marcus: "I expect a thorough process, Captain. And not just because Cassandra is my wife. If there's any attempt at a cover-up..." Delgado: "We understand." They ended the call with a tacit agreement. The truth would come to light, and justice would be served. Cassandra proceeded to file a formal complaint, supported by the video footage and witness statements from Mr. McCarthy, Jacob Anderson, and the young couple. Public outrage accelerated the process. Ross faced immediate termination and potential criminal charges. His own family, his wife and 2 teenage children, were blindsided, having always seen him as a model officer. A week later, media outlets unearthed an older case in which Ross was similarly accused of racial discrimination 5 years before. In that instance, the alleged victim had lacked resources or social standing to pursue legal action. Now, with Cassandra's case under public scrutiny, the skeleton in Ross's closet was laid bare, further damaging the department's reputation and fueling calls for reform. During the departmental hearing, Ross found himself with no solid defense. The evidence, from the recording to eyewitness reports, pointed squarely at his misconduct. Past history sealed his fate. Captain Delgado stood before the disciplinary board. "Delgado, we, the Parkview Heights Police Department, hereby terminate Officer Martin Ross for abuse of power, violation of conduct standards, and racially motivated misconduct." Ross attempted a final justification, something about protecting community safety, but the words rang hollow. He was dismissed on the spot and left facing possible prosecution. Cassandra and her attorney attended the hearing. Watching Ross, she felt a confusing mix of anger and pity. Ultimately, he had brought this upon himself. That evening, Cassandra arrived back at her cozy home. Removing her shoes, she slumped against the wall, finally letting the day's exhaustion flood over her. Marcus approached and hugged her tightly. "Marcus, it's over now. You're safe." Cassandra, softly: "Not just for me. So many others deserve safety too. If I weren't the director's wife, I might have become another statistic." Marcus tightened his embrace, acknowledging the weight of her words. Across town, the aftermath reverberated. Jacob Anderson's footage sparked nationwide discussions on policing and racial bias. Parkview Heights Police Department pledged institutional reforms, promising better training to eradicate discrimination. Cassandra received an outpouring of messages, some from strangers grateful she stood her ground. In interviews, she underscored the collective need to protect those who don't have influential spouses, urging everyone to demand justice where it's lacking. Power must never be used to silence the innocent. Wrongdoers inevitably face judgment, no matter their badge or tenure. The story closed on a note of guarded optimism, reminding residents of Tennessee and far beyond that justice may be slow, but it is inescapable. Cassandra's stand was just one victory in a larger struggle, a beacon for others to speak up against injustice. If this story resonates with you, share it widely. The message should not stop here. Let it remind us that we all deserve respect, safety, and fairness. One individual's courage, like Cassandra's, can inspire many more to step forward, making our communities stronger and more just.